Have you ever been in a meeting where you may have shared an idea or a thought on a project and you were immediately either shut down, maybe got pushed back right away on your ideas, your thoughts? Or maybe you went to a supervisor or a team member and you shared a little bit of some frustration or concern, and all of a sudden you realize a month later you haven't heard anything back. You haven't seen anything about what's been going on. And what that looks like is that we feel uncared for. And so when it comes to employee engagement, what we're going to talk about today is one of the things that actually gets lost in employee engagement, and that is listening and following up. And so again, I want to welcome you to our weekly webinar here today. My name is Ryan Boda. I'm one of the lead coaches at Leap Training and Coaching. We specialize in professional development, leadership development, team building, and we do a lot of training and coaching with companies. And so we started this weekly webinar series a few months back just to provide some new techniques, some new tools, some new thought-provoking pieces to our clients and to the general population here about what we can do to just improve our teams, improve ourselves every week, just a little bit, taking 15 to 20 minutes every week. And so that's what we're here to do today. We're here to make a small improvement, give yourself some reflective time to think about what can I be doing to become a better leader, a better team member, a better collaborator. And so that's what we're going to focus on here. And so I want to start with a little story. I had a client about a year ago, and they were going through a really tough transition. Their leader of a team of 60 was really difficult, didn't do a lot to work with the team, really struggled. They didn't really have a great relationship and didn't talk with the team members. And so that leader chose to step down and walk away. And so when they went to transition into a new leader, it was all about, what do you really want to see in a leader? And the number one thing that came out when we did focus groups with all 60 people was that they really wanted to make sure that that leader was somebody who was patient and would listen to them. And so we said, okay, so when we worked with the upper executives who were actually hiring this person on, okay, we need to make sure that this is the type of person you bring in, this is really what they're interested in, and that they know that that's what, is being looked for them. And so they brought in a new individual, and this leader came in and actually, interesting enough, spent the first 3 months without any of our coaching or suggestions, setting up individual appointments with all 60 members. Really interested in, where are you? What are you doing? How can I be supportive to you? And that leader came in with a listening first mindset. And so that sounds all great, but we actually followed up about 3 months later. And one of our most difficult people in that group, actually, she came to us and she said, you know what? I am so happy with the new leadership change. We said, okay, tell us a little more about that. And she said, well, I brought her a concern of mine. It was one of the procedures that was in place, and I thought it was a problem. She said, about a week later, this leader came back to her and said, hey, I want you to know what I've been doing for the last week. And she said, here's who I've talked to. Here's the things I've found out. I have these 2 other things to track down, and then I'll come back to you. And this person said, wow, I didn't even realize she was doing all this work to make sure that she followed up on it. And a week later, she came back and she said, okay, I've talked to the last 2 people. We can't make any changes, and here is why, and laid out the exact regulations that the government put in place. And so we asked this individual who was telling us about it, what did you think about all this? And she said, it was one of the most rejuvenating, energizing things that happened. We kind of sat back and listened, and she said it had nothing to do with the fact that she couldn't make any changes, but that she talked to the people, shared with me along the process of where she was. It meant the world to me that I knew I was listened to and that they were going to do something about my suggestions. She said, so in the future, I know that if I have something, I can bring it to this leader. And that's what we want from our leaders, our team members, is the ability to know that we trust them to truly listen to us and follow through. And so I have to share with you that I'm doing a capstone project for my master's program. So I'm finishing up my leadership development master's program. And what I'm focused on is what's called psychological safety. And one of the biggest components that I'm analyzing is these 3 sides of you speak up. So in psychological safety, you want to create an environment where people can speak up, but also that they listen up, that they create a space where they're going to listen And then lastly, in psychological safety from my model is about following up. And what I thought was really interesting is I have rough data right now. We haven't crunched all the numbers correctly and done it. But just as a general term was people felt that they could speak up at work. A lot of my people had a high percent of, yes, we feel we can speak up, share our ideas. But from speak up to listen up dropped substantially, where people were saying and making comments around, well, yes, I can speak up and have my voice said and heard, but the listening, like the really truly listening, isn't there. And what was crazy is it tapered off even farther when it came down to follow-up. Whether it be from a team and it was, a lot of times we don't all follow through with what we said we would do between meetings. Or if it's a supervisor, it was a lot of comments about, well, yeah, they listen to me and they make me feel heard, but then they've never mentioned anything after. And so I will farther crunch these numbers, and I am planning to share them in these webinars at some point when we're in that. But what I want us to really think about is that we've spent the last couple sessions talking a lot about creating the space for employees to speak up, and then encouraging to speak up by using their voice through some characteristics and things. Now it's about, yes, we can get those things moving, but we need to learn to listen and to follow up. And so that's why we're going to focus on those two areas today. So let's start with listening. And I've got 3 pieces here that I really want to touch on. And the first and foremost is that when it comes to listening, we actually have to be inquisitive, be curious about how someone else is holding, their reality, their story. And what I mean by this is that our brains are extremely smart. We all have preconceived notions, thoughts, ideas, beliefs about a person, about a situation. I am sure that you're sitting there thinking to yourself, oh, okay, what does this look like? Well, when's the last time that, one person brought you a situation about another, right? They told you, oh my gosh, you should have seen the way they handled this situation. They kind of raised their voice and were a little stern with this customer. And then when you go to talk to them, right, you have this whole idea in your head about what they were experiencing. And so when we're listening in that case, we're actually just listening to say, oh my gosh, you were mad that day, you were rude, you were wrong. Instead of saying, okay, I'm going to be curious about what was going on for you. Tell me more about how that unfolded. Tell me more about your day. What were you experiencing? Things like that. And you find out, okay, well, they had a flat tire on their way to work. They were 10 minutes late. They just got off a phone with a customer who actually yelled at them on the phone, and there's a recording, and then you get this, and all of a sudden you see a whole picture. So what I would encourage you to think about when you go into conversations is, how am I truly being inquisitive, curious, just simply wanting to understand how someone else saw a situation, where I'm able to sit back and really take that breath and just listen. The second one is about eye contact. And what this really looks like for us in today's world is, how are we setting aside our distractions and really connecting with somebody? And eye contact is one of the ways we do that. And so you can notice even on this screen, I'm sure right now it looks like I'm probably looking more at you. But as soon as I go like this, it feels like I disconnect, right? If I look to the sides as I'm reading something, you can feel the disconnect. And so it doesn't matter if you're working from home or you're live in person. Know that eye contact, putting aside distractions, saying, oh my gosh, okay, they came into my office. Yes, I was mid-email, but I'm going to close this, or I'm going to minimize my screen and just really put a focus on them. I had one person that this was one of their biggest challenges. She said, I went meeting to meeting to meeting. I really tried to pay attention, but it was just so much information. And so she had her yellow pad, she'd write all over it. And at the end of the day, she was like, honestly, I didn't know what happened. Well, what we told her to do was to find a way to really connect with someone while listening. So she made these little symbols on her page and was really focused on when she wrote notes, when she got to that, she just checked it. She said, I looked up, I made some strong eye contact with the person. And then once I'd done that, then I, went back and jotted a few more notes as we went. And she joked that one of her biggest takeaways was that she stopped using so many yellow pads. But the truth was, she actually had multiple people at the end of the week come to her and say, hey, I noticed how engaged you were in our conversation. I just wanted you to know I appreciate that. And she said, it was more their reaction of how much I was connecting to them and listening that made the difference. So think about, am I behind my computer? When I go to a meeting, am I around a computer? Do I allow others to be? And how do we stay connected and engaged in that? And the last one is about asking deeper questions. And it would be great if I gave you a 20 questions and this big questionnaire to add to your tool belt, but the truth is this can start very, very simple. When I say ask deeper questions when it comes to listening, it's as simple as when someone's sharing, just simply being able to say, hey, tell me a little more about that. Help me better understand your perspective. How did that really unfold for you? Very simple ways. And the easiest one is that, tell me more about that. And so as someone shares and they say, you know what, I'm hurt, or I'm sad, or I'm frustrated, just simply keep your calm and say, hey, tell me a little bit more about that. What's that look like for you? You're going to get them to be able to explore those deeper pieces that are going to help them really feel heard by you by just simply saying, tell me more about that. Another one we do is when we get to the end of a conversation, right? They've shared, they're getting all that junk off their chest, and you say, is that all? Is there anything else? And sit back and give them a minute. So take that deep breath before you respond. They finish, and then just say, is there anything else? And really let them sit in that for a moment. Because they may think for a moment and say, no, that's it. Or they may tell you the most important thing that you were there to hear. Because that's what we get through all that junk and frustration and things, and we get to the core of what's going on. So when it comes to listening, it's about being inquisitive and curious, really going in there with the mindset that I'm here to learn from them, explore something with them. Set aside those distractions, make sure you make eye contact, really connect with them. And then ask those deeper questions. Make sure that you're really pulling things out, asking them about more about their perspective. Is there anything else they really want to share? Now, it's great. You can be a great listener. You can do all these things. But really, step 3 is actually really important because it's what builds the trust in each other, is that follow-up side, that we trust that someone's going to follow up with what they say they would. And so that's where we have 3 pieces here. First and foremost is about taking ownership. And this is something we all have to do, is to learn to take ownership of our side. And so what this looks like is, I was really working with a training group just a couple months ago on this concept of follow-up, of taking ownership. When I send you something to do it. And if you don't get your task done, when you come back, don't lie about it. I haven't completed it. This got in the way, and I'm going to work on it starting now to whatever, getting your plan. And so I had to demonstrate that for them by taking that responsibility first. And so what happened was the second week, I didn't get the sheets and the recordings to them on the Monday that I said. I got them out on the Tuesday. And so we met that Thursday, and the first thing I said to him is, you know what, I want to stop for a moment and I want to apologize. I want to take ownership for my part in not following up where I said I would. I had it on my calendar, this thing came up, and I missed the deadline. I want you to acknowledge that and let you know that I'm sorry. And they went, oh, no, you're good. But then when it came to the next time where, they weren't following up, I was able to say, hey, do you remember when I shared that I didn't accomplish this on time? Tell me what got in the way. And they shared and they said, you know what, I took the day off on this day, or we actually had a power plant shut down on this day. I said, perfect. What are you going to do? And so when it comes to taking ownership, number one, first and foremost, start with yourself. Be able to take ownership when you're not the one following up, so that then you can hold others accountable. The second piece here is about a tracking system. And so that is whatever it is for you. It's so unique. Figure out what fits best for yourself, your team, your culture. We have some people who have a board, right, that they put things on and they track. Others have spreadsheets. Others use different systems online that track their goals. Some people individually, right, like me, use a little book. I have all my tasks in here, while others may use their calendar or their task piece of their system, whatever it is. What I would really encourage you to do is make sure that you have a tracking system, a way to say, this person brought me this and I have followed up and done it. Because by doing that, you're showing that you can stay consistent, have a process, and really make sure that you're following up with someone. And I don't have a key perfect example for you. It is so unique to what fits best for your culture and yourself and your team. And so I would encourage you just to be reflective and to figure out what works for you, and then what would be a good one for your team so that they can visibly see where we are at in some of our processes on handling some of these situations. because it is important for them to be able to see, oh, hey, look, I noticed on blank that you've already talked to these other two people. So it gives them that reassurance that things are being done. And so that is part of the tracking system. So consider that as you go. How do I want to track both for myself and for others? And so another part of tracking is for the third one, which is to learn to celebrate. And so that's what a tracking system gives us, is almost like, okay, we're here, and look, we've got all the way to here so far. So let's celebrate how far we've gotten, and we'll keep moving. And so one thing I have to say about this is that I had somebody that I talked to, this was probably about 2 years ago, and they're, a smaller entrepreneurial business. They have 20 or 25 employees. And one of their things was they created this really neat idea of a crushed it wall. And what it was that they had productivity things, stuff like that each employee or a little team of employees were really working on. Maybe something as simple as, okay, let's get these cords out of the way and be safer. Could be as simple as, how do we organize this so it's quicker and easier to get things? So anyway, it was a crushed it board. And whenever you accomplished a task, they would be able to move that over to the crushed it side. And what this individual shared with me is what they found out is they're one of those go-getter, go. And so it was, move it, awesome, what's next? And so later they found out from their employees that there was some frustration and resentment towards the crushed it board, simply because employees would put in time, effort, energy into these tasks, and they'd follow up, they'd do them, they'd get them done, and then all the owners or the people would do was go, that is great, boom, next, what are you doing next? And they said, I didn't quite feel appreciated, celebrated, or acknowledged for all the time, effort, and energy I did put in to that specific thing. And so it was a big learning for them that, yes, the tracking is great, but also so is the celebrations. So when it comes to follow-up, right, it's the three areas. It's the taking ownership. And I want you to know that that's starting with you. You can't expect others to take ownership until you're able to start taking ownership. Ownership of when you don't accomplish something and follow up with it. Just acknowledge it. Tell them what you're going to do differently next time. And then do it, right? And then do it. And then number two is about the tracking system, actually creating a systematic way that you can kind of look at, okay, I need to work on something. How do I do that? And then lastly, just remember to celebrate the follow-up, the growth, the things you're able to do with people. And so what I want you to really walk away with today is understanding that employee engagement has so many moving parts. It is a challenge every day. It's something you have to dedicate energy, time, effort in every single day. And yes, there are systems and processes you can put in place, like a tracking system, like some of that feedback loops we've talked about earlier in the month. But the truth is, it's all about creating a relationship, a connection with somebody. And that is done through these two steps here. That is done through truly listening, connecting to somebody's point of view, how they see the world, and understanding it, really diving into it, and then being able to follow up and say, hey, I'm going to trust you, or I'm going to show you you can trust me as your supervisor or your team member, and really follow up with things. Employee engagement is something that needs time, effort, and energy. And just by being here today, just by watching this recording later, you're putting in the time, energy, and effort you need to really focus on your employees and help engage them in the process. So I want to thank you for being here. Again, my name is Ryan Boda. I'm with Leap Training and Coaching. We're a professional development organization. We do a lot of training, coaching, and leadership. And I just really want you to know, keep working on how to engage your employees. This is a never-ending process, and that's okay. Make it fun, enjoyable, and really look for it. How can you get those employees to speak up, really listen up, and then really follow up? Thank you. Have a good rest of your week, and I hope to see you next week when we continue to tackle one more week of employee engagement. Thank you, and have a good day.